Hello, everyone. Glad you could join us again today. We appreciate you tuning in. We want to apologize. We've been kind of out of pocket for a few weeks, but we're back. We're going to try to finish up our messages or our series on the Ten Commandments. We're going to be looking at commandment number 9 in just a second. But I was just thinking it's a good opportunity that you said, well, where have we been, and why haven't we been doing it every week? And I just thought it was kind of, well, maybe it's not funny. After all, I was just going to say, let's blame it on COVID. And the reason I was going to say that, it just seems like that everybody uses that for an excuse. Now, part of that is true. A little bit of it is true. But nevertheless, thanks a lot for joining us. Let's get right into it, because we've been working our way through the Ten Commandments, and we're already up to commandment number 9. But let's read commandment number 9. It's found in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 16. It says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." This commandment, I was mistaken about this commandment. For some reason, I thought the commandment said something different. I thought it says, "You shall not lie." And it doesn't really actually say that exactly. It says something a little bit different. It says this, it says that God commands us here not to say something untrue about our neighbor that would be against our neighbor, or that would do our neighbor harm. Does God command us not to lie? Of course, does he command us and tell us not that we shouldn't tell lies? Of course he does. But I just somehow thought that commandment, that's what it said, "Thou shalt not lie," but it doesn't. It has to do with saying something bad about our neighbor. And you might ask, well, who is our neighbor? I think Jesus answered that question really, really well when he told the story in Luke chapter 10 about the Good Samaritan. He explained to us who our neighbor is. Actually, our neighbor's anyone. It could be anyone. So we shouldn't be saying something bad that would hurt our neighbor. Now, I just want to say this. I honestly can't remember doing that. I mean, I can't remember a specific time where I said something with the intention of hurting my neighbor or my fellow man. And now I know that I have. I'm sure that I have. I'd be silly to all my life. Surely I've said that and done that. I just can't. My memory, I think I have selective memory. That is to say, I think I can kind of choose some things that maybe don't look good for me and say, I don't remember doing that. Now, when somebody else does it, my memory's really good. I can really remember what other people do and the things and the wrongs that they do, but I can't remember that. Now, I want to say something else, that Jesus taught that we will be held accountable for the things that we say. And that's mentioned over in Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. And you might ask the question, why is that we will be held accountable for the things that we say? And here's the reason. The reason is our tongue has a connection to what's inside of us. In fact, if you're around somebody for quite a while and you listen to what they say, if you listen carefully, it will reveal what's in the person's heart, because our tongues are connected to what's in our hearts. And so the tongue is a dangerous thing. If you can read about that in the book of James, James didn't, in his book, he didn't soft soap anything. When he talked about the tongue, he said the tongue is an unruly evil. And in fact, he said nobody could tame the tongue. He said man could tame everything and has tamed everything. Birds and fish are, in the sea, and animals. But he said nobody could tame the tongue. In fact, he said this about the tongue in James 3:6. He said, "And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body." I don't know if you've thought about that before. I know I haven't. I don't think about that enough, that when I say something and it's mean and it's evil, it defiles my whole body. And he goes on and he says, and it sets on fire the course of nature. And here's something else that's even harsher. He says, and it is set on fire by hell. So he doesn't have any flattering words to say about the tongue. So it can be used to do a lot of damage. Now there's a reason, I know you've heard people say that, why we have two ears and one mouth. And also our mouth has some gates. It has like a set of teeth that is on the outside of our tongue, and then our lips are, so there's kind of some gates there to protect what we say. Now the commandment forbids us to use our tongue to lie about another person. That's really serious. I don't think we think that's so serious, but it's so serious that it made the list of God's 10 commandments. So it is serious, and it is important. Now, you've probably heard this said before. You've heard a person say this probably in your childhood: sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. And I understand why that was said, probably. I don't know who said it. I haven't looked it up, and so I don't really know who coined that phrase. But generally, it's trying to cause people that have been hurt by other people, calling them names, to make them not feel so bad. But the fact of the matter is that really that statement's not true. And here's why it's not true: because when we call people names and when we use harsh words against people, it does hurt them. It is very hurtful. In fact, our tongue is so powerful, it can destroy people. In fact, Solomon said this in Proverbs 18:21. He says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. So our tongues can be used to destroy people. Now here's the good news about our tongue: it can also be used for good as well, and that's a really a good thing. Our tongues can be a great instrument for the service of God and for the benefit of men. We can say things. Just saying a kind word, an encouraging word, can mean so much to somebody. I think that we probably experience that in our life when we are really, really down, and all of us get down. And to have someone just say a simple, encouraging word, it can lift our entire spirits and make us just feel much, much better. So we need to use our tongues for that, for helping other people, encouraging other people, and also we need to use our tongues to give praise and thanksgiving to the one who's done so much for us. So the tongue, it can heal and it can lift up our neighbor as well. Now, that ought to encourage us and challenge us to make sure that our words will be true and the things that we speak will be truthful. How valuable and how important is a truthful person? I mean, we like people that are truthful, whether it's the guy working on our car or the person that is repairing our air conditioner, or whatever the person may be. And maybe it's a person coming and just spraying for bugs or whatever, or just anyone. The people that we have close relationships with, we count on them to be truthful. And how valuable is a truthful person, and how harmful is a person who's dishonest and deceitful. Does everyone tell the truth? We'd like to say, I think if you ask people if they were truthful, almost everybody will say that, yeah, I'm a truthful person. I've never heard anybody say, yeah, I'm not a truthful person. People don't do that. Does everyone tell the truth? No, of course not. That's a reason that in our court system, when we have trials and we have these lawsuits and things like that, they put someone on the stand, and I think that they still put their hand on the Bible and swear an oath to tell the truth, so help them God. And if they don't, they're actually committing a crime. It's the crime of perjury. Now, something that we need to think about, that what Jesus said. And now they're doing that under an oath. They're swearing an oath, but Jesus actually taught for us not to swear at all. He said we shouldn't have to swear. And I think what Jesus was talking about is that our yeses should be enough and our no's should be enough, and we shouldn't have to swear at all. In fact, he said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 37, he said, "But let your yes be yes, and your no be no." And then he said this, which is an interesting thought. He said, "For whatever is more than these is from the evil one." So if our yes means yes and not something else, and if our no means no and not something else, then these two simple responses should be enough. A simple yes. We shouldn't have to make any other greater affirmation to try to convince people that we're telling the truth. We can say yes, or we can say simply in the negative, have a negative response as no. But what a wonderful commandment. Aren't you glad that God gave us these commandments? You know, He is the lawgiver. He is the one who sets the moral standards, not us. If we set the moral standards, all of our standards would be a variable, and they would be different. You'd have something, I'd have something, but aren't we glad we have someone outside of ourselves that is not defiled and not sinful, that can tell us things that we need to do? And one of them is that we shouldn't lie, or we shouldn't especially say anything bad against our neighbor. Well, listen, I want to say again that we're really glad that you're with us, and hope you have a good week. Hope you're doing well, and we look forward to seeing you when we're going to do the last one. That'll be the 10th commandment. Thank you again. Have a great week.